In an Olympic year, we saw world-class athletes participating in the triple jump in Paris. It's a term that's also used for MBA candidates who use business school to change sector, to change function, and to change geography. There are others for who the MBA is an extraordinary accelerator, opening up new opportunities, greater levels of leadership and responsibility. But perhaps the way that the Olympic Committee likes to describe it, faster, higher, stronger, and in the new version, together. For me, that describes the MBA cohorts that all study and share this experience together, whether it's in Hong Kong, Barcelona, or in Paris. So what are the transformational career opportunities at the MBA when you graduate from one of the world's leading international business schools? To answer that question, it's a pleasure to welcome Sarah Vanos, a friend of Centre Court. Lovely to have you with us, Sarah. Sarah is the Executive Director of Marketing Admissions for the MBA programs at HEC Paris. Joining us from Hong Kong, Mercy Liu. Mercy is the Assistant Director of Admissions for the MBA program at Hong Kong University. And Benjamin Borngrebe Bertelsen. I hope I managed to get that umlaut more or less on. And Benjamin is an Employer Engagement and Advising Associate Director with a focus on technology at IESE Business School in Barcelona. So thank you, all three of you, for joining us. And perhaps, Sarah, we can start with you talking a little bit about HEC Paris, its 143 years of history and the success of their graduates. Great place to go to school.
Yes, fantastic. So you want me to give a little bit more information about HEC?
Tell us a little bit about the school and
Sure.
how it can be this extraordinary booster for somebody's career.
Yeah, wonderful. And so today I know and I hope that many of you joined the previous panel with Matt and Jean from my team who talked about HEC Paris. So today I'm going to really try to put that career transformation spin. So we have many unique factors that I think make us special. So multiple intakes, a really unique program length of 16 months, our location just outside of Paris, and then career transformation. We are one of the schools with the highest, Matt referred to it a little earlier, of triple jump statistics. So every year we do have students who pivot into completely new careers, so new geography, sector, function, and like really huge jumps. But what I thought I would focus on here is maybe what makes HEC's talents or careers team really unique and how they can help you. So I'll just give a couple points there. I think the fact that we have internships in our curriculum is quite unique. So a lot of students looking to pivot or try something new love internships. So over 65% of our students follow internships. We have over 150 career workshops. So this is hands-on workshops through the 16-month curriculum. We offer languages to really help you make that jump. And I'm sure we'll go into how and where that can be. And then really personalized attention in terms of dedicated coaching, and really specific kind of make your own adventure career journeys. So I don't know, that's a little snippet because I want to just allow the others, but happy to go into more details of our uniqueness or what makes HEC Paris special, and especially for this career boost.
It's a great snippet, Sarah, because the viewers of Centre Court know that having these careers panels, for me, it's the magic of the program, this personal attention, the opportunity to explore. And Benjamin, while we might think about Barcelona for beautiful beaches, your tech focus also is an illustration of a city that's so incredibly modern, attracts global summits for technology. So the careers piece at IESE, maybe just give us the big picture of how you then work with graduates for their own transformation.
Definitely. So similar to HSA, we have a required mandatory summer internship. And so our first years, they just started 5 weeks ago, and the focus, the full attention is just summer internship, because it being a 2-year program, similar to HSA, it's very much focused on, okay, how do I jump, or how do I skill myself, or where do I want to go? We call this period of time right now the discovery phase. So it is for students to discover what it is they want to do, both more from a passion, but also how do I leverage my previous experience. So we have pretty much 3 different tracks. We have the consulting track, which most schools have. We have the investment banking track, and then we have the diversified industries track. And so we've combined that because the prep and the journey of a lot of those students all follow the same path. So if you're all looking towards leadership programs, well, the main focus of these leadership programs are on fit. So the prep for fit, the focus on fit is very much a center of diversified industries. And so you go into these 3 paths, and then of course we then have more and more sessions tailored to a specific sector. And then we also, of course, work with our clubs to help where we can't manage everything. We have students, second-year students, giving back as well, which is very much the community of IESE, which is always giving back to first years or to the community you're in or the society as a whole.
Got it. Now, often, Mercy, the work of the careers team begins before students even show up. You're perhaps already engaging with them and the career transformation. So how are you approaching the careers piece of the MBA at HKU?
Thanks very much, Matt, for having me again. Great to see you guys. Well, I think first of all, I would briefly mention at the other panel is in terms of how the personal experience really been executed. Because I guess compared to my peers from the other top business schools and MBA programs, for HKU MBA, the full-time program is really a small cohort. We're talking about 45 to 50 people every intake. We'll only take one intake every year because it's a very short, intense one-year program. And then with that 50 people, we actually have a few MBA career managers who only work with the full-time students. So if you do the math, basically one career manager will focus on no more than 10 students assigned to him or her every year. And they actually start engaging with our students even before the arrival in Hong Kong. So usually our orientation starts from mid or early August, and our career manager actually already reaching out to each one of you in July. So even before you come, they already have a good sense of where you have been doing, where you are now, what you want to achieve. And then start to strategize with the resources we have already on hand and present with the initial plan once you're on campus. So I think that is a very unique way to do that. And because we do share the other very generic shared common things, like if you want to go to consulting, there are typical things that you really have to drill, you have to be excellent, as Benjamin has mentioned. But we also feel like just because everyone wants to go into certain industry, it doesn't mean that you have the same journey or the same route. And even with things like, for example, banking and finance, or within consulting, even within tech, right? There's just so many different roles that may take very differently. And on top of that, you guys are very different as individuals. So how your previous experience really contribute to this jump is another strategy plan. So I think that really personalized approach is really something we've been practicing for a long time. And we definitely would like to put more resources into this practice on top of the pillars like leadership forums, workshops, corporate engagement, etc. We actually do extend our career support even after the student graduate. And we actually extend this sort of support over within the first 3 years after graduation from the program. The reason for that is because we first of all think that, yes, you might have made this jump after the MBA, but still you're quite new to Hong Kong as a professional place. So you may actually have new directions, met new people, think about potential new opportunities, and then you do want to have someone who's very experienced in hiring in the market that can support you in that way. Things even like if you already got a potential promotion, how to really stand out, to really get that firm. Or if you're fighting for one, how to really present yourself more effectively. So things like that will actually do extend that sort of support to our alumni within the first 3 years. Even though it will not be as hands-on as we do with the current students, but they can always feel welcome when they want to connect with the team after they graduate. So that's how we do it. And I think also it's really a curriculum in parallel to academics. So it's actually starting from the very beginning.
I'll actually, Mercy, we'll come back to that because I do want to make sure that we include everybody's voice. I've been fortunate to share Centre Court with you, Sarah, for a number of years. And when we started, AI, I think, was something we thought Canadians said at the end of their sentences. Now it seems to have permeated across all industries. What are some of the current industry trends that you're seeing, and how that's then shaping these 150 boot camps and workshops and the opportunities that creates?
Yes, totally a valid point. And it is something that probably is here to stay. So AI is requested more and more, maybe being able to how to manage it. Even we have a course on how to write prompts. So we've integrated courses vertically into the core curriculum as well as into our electives around AI. We also have a specialization dedicated to it. It's going to have a huge impact possibly on our MBAs in terms of function, but we also feel that they need the agility, resilience, adaptability, all those skills to be ready, not just for this innovation, but for the next. So I would say around AI, we have several core courses. So if I look specifically, because I know there's two that were just added, so Allison is just messaging them to me. One is called Shaping Tomorrow, the Business of Emerging Technologies. And the second is called Leading with AI, so Generating Value. And then in the careers, boot camps, et cetera, we have more. So happy to talk about this as we go deeper, but won't go too much into it. The other two big things, so one is new and one is old, ESG, so it's relatively new, but becoming more and more present. So we've also, incorporated that vertically into our classes, into our cases, into our career paths. And then the one that's maybe more old, but still relevant would be soft skills and communication. So this continues to come up. It continues to be extremely important and requested by employers. So these are many things that we've incorporated, not just into our career programming, but also into our academic programming so that they really kind of ebb and flow nicely together.
I mean, we talk about AI as one trend. Healthcare might be another, but Benjamin, as you look at it from the perspective in Barcelona, is it those underlying themes of keeping a step ahead, having that agility? And so whatever is coming down the road, your IESE graduates, then they have a place to start. How do you approach all of these emerging trends?
Well, if we take AI as the main focus right now, just because it is the buzzword and it has been for the last 2 years, my fundamental belief is, and this is what we are encouraging our students as well, is if you're not using it, you're already behind the 8 ball. You truly are, because there are a lot of documentaries, there are a lot of reports from Bloomberg to CNBC to the Financial Times coming out. There was one on the Financial Times that said, or CNBC rather, they interviewed 5,000 applicants and 47% of them had all used AI to either do their CV, which I don't encourage necessarily, but optimize it. And that I strongly encourage. And so what we have done from a careers perspective, kicking off this year, was to have 3 dedicated AI sessions where all students will learn how to use AI in the discovery phase. So that's between that. Well, the session was yesterday, the first one, from now until end of October, and then documentation. So how do you use it to help you optimize your cover letter, which I see being used less and less because of the use of AI now being so strong. I think video cover letters are going to be much more required. CV, 100%. And then towards the end, how to use it for prep. And so we are having these sessions so students learn how to use AI on a personal level. And from a professional level, similar to HEC, we've now implemented a concentration focus on AI. So first year, I don't know how many people know, but IESE is very, very dedicated to academics. So that's going to stay the same. But then second year, when you have your electives, you can then focus more on your interests, and AI is a core concentration of that. And from a school perspective, we're of course looking to how do we implement AI? Can we create our own AI tools, which is what we're working towards? So professors, academics, staff, and students can all leverage the intellectual property of IESE combined with ChatGPT or Gemini or so forth. So AI, definitely key. ESG, sustainability. With this next generation of talent coming through, we are seeing changes. We are seeing more demand for. I did my IESE MBA 7 years ago versus my year. I don't feel it's that far ago, but ed tech, health tech, sustainability, green tech, these are all terms that we didn't really use that are common nowadays. And there's a burning desire from the student body to enter these, to have a positive impact on society and on Earth in general. So those are the 2 fundamental paths that I'm seeing are being driven very much right now.
Global trends. And Mercy, we were talking about HKU, where East meets West. Similar, and perhaps anything that is more specific to Hong Kong and to the Asia region that you're seeing?
Yep. I think just adding on to our panelists' attention, I think really as what we are, because we kind of are seeing the development, the technologies from the West world, but also there's a lot of advancement in technology from the Greater Bay Area in mainland China, or just in Greater Asia in general. So I think students being in Hong Kong be able to very easily access, ASEAN countries, access to Japan, Korea to China. And that actually really gives them a different perspectives, really to look at, okay, what are things going on, not just in one market, but globally in general. And what are the nuances in between. And we actually do have some specific classes really on, for example, managing in China, for example. You're really looking at the companies in this part of the world, how they see development, how they're actually trying to catch up and have their own approach. But in the same time, give you comparative perspectives from the other countries where have been really leading, like in Europe, US, and how they actually approach potential competitions and collaborations. So these are all the topics that actually being discussed in the classroom, but also outside the classroom from fireside chat industry leaders who are like our alum who are actually working in these kind of industries.
With our theme of triple jumpers, and of course so many other opportunities, you do a triple jump in the Olympics, you measure how far you went, boom, you've got a metric. And I often think that with the ROI of an MBA, Sarah, the media so often just focus on salaries. But if you have changed geography, if you have changed industry and all of these other factors, how do you like to look at ROI in terms of a career? Perhaps some of the intangibles that are also so integral to what they benefited from.
Yeah, I love this question because it's so personal. And I agree that we're getting further away from salary, but that does still, remain some goals of some students.
Sure.
And that's why they will choose a particular industry function, et cetera. I heard someone talking about their kind of emotional return on investment as well. So I think that's becoming more and more of a thing where you think about the satisfaction that you get out from the change or the work-life balance or, whatever these things that you came in were for and how. And I think this is probably going to be a very personal measurement. I do think that, we have a lot of students coming for different reasons. So some are coming to make a huge career transformation in terms of geography. So, move to Europe or France in particular. The value of that is immeasurable because for, at least the foreseeable future and perhaps the rest of their lives, they're going to have a completely different cultural experience. They also might weight the things like slightly more vacation or healthcare or the benefits. That's something that we don't always put into, an immediate context. We just look at like the base salary or the salary package. So I think that looking at that is extremely important. Really what I think someone should do if they're going to be considering an MBA is look at all of the initial investments, look at what the dreams they hope to capture, look if this school is going to help them get there. And then I guess you have to take, a little bit of the final salary package into account. The other things that I think have extreme value would be the story that you get out of it. So the return on investment is not just your job today, it's your job forever, and it's your jobs in competitive markets. And I think when you have a story of, working in a new country, studying in a new country, having experiences, having, cross-cultural groups, all of these things are really intangible things that you could never measure but that might be that kind of experience factor that everyone looks for, that thing that, you have in your hands that's not just your bank account. So for me, those are kind of the little things. I could go on forever, so I will let the other panelists, but I'm happy to discuss with any candidate who wants to talk a little bit more about the things we can't just put in an Excel table.
The smile on your face as you were thinking about what you were saying was more than enough. It captured worth 1,000 words. Benjamin, in our previous session, we talked about the values from a slightly different angle with Paula. In terms of ethics, in terms of social responsibility, do you feel that an MBA student at IESE is able to achieve both? They can see the financial rewards of the successful career that they build, but also be true to their integral values?
Well, fortunately, I've done the IESE MBA. My brother has, many friends have. Straight answer, yes, 100%. Now, how do we go about that? For me, it wasn't actually a learning I had during the MBA. All the courses that we did, all the cases we read, you just read them for the sake of them. You're not realizing that you are being actually guided behind the scenes by the professors, by the values, looking at business from a holistic approach. And what I mean by that is that there's a human side to every business choice. And by the end of the 2 years, you don't realize it, but you're automatically looking through that lens. So you're not looking at a P&L. You're looking more at the P&L plus what's that positive societal impact. So 100%, I think you can have both, and you can always look at how do you improve society and everything. And to the return on investment, I 100% agree with Sarah. It's such a personal choice. Yes, I think the easiest one is measuring the salary, but for everybody, that shouldn't be the key driver. You have your own goal. Did you achieve it? Yes or no? Is it a very ambitious goal? Great. Maybe it's 2 years down the road after the MBA. I think looking at where people go after the MBA, not just immediately, but maybe a couple of years down, that's really where you can start seeing, does it pay off? Because right after the MBA, you go into various paths, but they may be a stepping stone to where you ultimately want to go.
Right.
And that for me is truly important. And I tell everybody, be as ambitious as you want. You can get there, but understand the path to get there and the pros and cons of each path. And so for the return on investment, it truly is, if you can look back, are you happy? Do you have a strong network? Because in our case, we are 450 students now from 60 nationalities. You're going to have so many friends and a strong connection from all over the world. And that's something that's immeasurable and priceless, truly.
Right. Mostly both Benjamin and Sarah have talked about not just that first job coming out of business school, and understandably, I mean, that matters a lot. But you would be, our viewers might be considering HKU and the class of 2026 when they graduate. Are you nevertheless mindful in all of the career support and guidance, not just for that graduating job in 2026, but maybe a job in 2036? And you know, preparing them for this stepping stone that Benjamin was describing.
Yeah, Matt, I think that's a great point. I really appreciate that actually Sarah and Benjamin already bringing up the long-term value, the strategy that you have to take a look. And I think, yes, we all agree that MBA today is no longer like a sort of like a magic, as maybe say 10, 15 years ago, when the curriculum was different, when the demand in the market was actually different. So I think for sure the students being personal about where they want to do it, but at the same time be also pragmatic about, you know, what are the external, because as a business leader, you shouldn't just look at yourself, right? You should be looking at what's going on in the market and everything, and be able to, you know, adjust maybe for the short term to really get to the long term. I guess the other thing I really want to mention that I do hear a lot of the alumni say is once, as you said, right, once you become a professional with say 10 to 15 years of experience, you're on your plate, the work that you do is no longer just a professional. You should become a managerial, you should become a leader. And that really comes in where the soft skills, the mindset change really make a huge difference. And a lot of people may, even for example, even part-time program students, we have people who have 15 years of experience. They are very good at what they do, but why they want to do an MBA at this time is simply because that now they need to work across borders. They have to work with different clients. They have to be able to bring in business and revenue, where they have to work internal stakeholders who have nothing to do with his previous work before as a professional. So I think once they hit to that stage, do you have the soft skill to be able to bring up win-win internally, externally? Are you able to connect the dots beyond just one business unit to the entire organization? Are you able to bring in the relevant network that may be benefiting your team or your organization in different ways? So then having the MBA on the early stage as an investment becomes something really the true values come out. That's then when you realize, wow, I already know how to work this. I already have connections who actually, you know, been working in different industries. I already have this mentality to approach different people because that's how I've been trained. So that really long-term strategic perspective of the so-called value of the experience, really you have to adopt a more kind of invested like perspective. So yes, invest in something that you know will give you the solid quality that one day you also benefit in the future.
Right. And when we think about, Sarah, managing teams in future stages of your career, you've just given them 16 months where, you know, perhaps their initial career had been in South Korea or in South Africa, and they'd worked in those local national markets. Suddenly, there's 50, 60 nationalities. They're organizing the MBA tournament together. Do employers give you this feedback of, wow, you know, this ability now to manage across cultures and manage international teams?
Yeah, so I think there's several things. One, it's true MBAT, so it's our like MBA Olympics. It really helps as students organize it wholeheartedly together. We also have courses in our core like leadership communication and leadership influence and decision making. So this helps students really grow their capacity to receive feedback, give feedback, how to react in conflict, how to react cross-culturally. So we've embedded quite a few things like this that I think help. But what I think is probably one of the most attractive things to employers. So if I talk to a recruiter and I talk about our leadership seminar, so this is a hands-on seminar on campus. Students have to build bridges, they have to cross a river, they have to build a boat, etc. In really stressful situations in teams and with mentors, and they each take a turn being the leader or the follower. And then they get feedback on their leadership style. So I think this is one of the most compelling things to recruiters because it's like really tangible hands-on leadership in a stressful situation in a group of 10 to 15 people, all from different professional backgrounds and nationalities. So that's a kind of a standout feature that we have in both our MBA and executive MBA. And that's something that resonates with recruiters because it ties in those leadership skills, the soft skills, crazy situation, agility, and then how you took feedback and how you implemented it. So again, happy to share more about this because I have lots of stories that are pretty interesting, and even how the person took the feedback and then implemented it later.
Well, an obvious question, have you crossed the bridge or the lake on that raft?
And so I did some of the activities. One of the ones that's the most scary is basically you have to like make a big leap, which looks like a pit, but it's safe, etc. And your whole team behind you helps you. And then, yes, I have crossed the bridges, the river. I have also seen, though, teams fall because the leader didn't necessarily share the instructions in the best way. And there was an engineer and they let the engineer take over. And so, yes, I've seen both, but yes, I personally have made it through. Even scaling, one of the activities is scaling one of the 4-story buildings in our campus. So happy to share more. Watch the video online if you want to be inspired, but really a cool way to think about and demonstrate leadership.
Yeah, great video photos of that one. Now, Sarah was just using the word, Benjamin, feedback. You attract successful young professionals who perhaps have been working, 80 hours a week in investment banking, 75 hours a week in strategy consulting. They put together more decks of PowerPoint slides, makes my head spin. And now there's an opportunity to step back and you hold up a mirror. And there is this sort of, interpersonal dynamics and feedback. They've been doing well. How do you help them in a transition to be receptive to feedback that's going to help them grow and develop?
I think one of the key things is from one of the very first sessions they have on campus is COMCO, communication. And that is generally a 4-day period where they go through, yes, communicating, but also how do you get feedback. But it doesn't just stop in the first week. They're going to be 2 or 3 other days interspersed in the first year, because what we do in the first year is you are put into a group with 8 other students, and they are all from diverse backgrounds. And consequently, it's going to foster different opinions. And how do you manage that? Well, we let the students test it out, but we also give tools to the students how to communicate, how to take feedback. And one of the things for me being on the tech side is there truly is no such thing as a mistake. Every mistake is a learning opportunity. So come to the MBA open-minded to getting feedback, being open to saying, okay, yes, I was great in my previous profession, but are you that in the direction you want to go in the future? Probably not. There may be somebody else in the MBA who has done exactly what you wanted to do and knows a lot more than you. Listen to that person, learn from that person, take this opportunity. And I think a lot of students come in with this open mind. It is sometimes hard to get feedback, and especially if it's critical. And when you have some nationalities that are very strong-headed, stubborn to a certain degree, and they are communicating with somebody that's maybe very tepid, well, then you have to learn to be quiet and learn and listen. And listen is one of the crucial aspects. It's truly a journey. It's truly a journey of self-reflection, but one that you grow immensely, because after this, you can work anywhere in the world. You truly can.
Yeah, and it reinforces the emotional ROI that we were discussing earlier. Talking about working anywhere in the world, Mercy, I head to Hong Kong, I do my MBA. There are opportunities for me in the Hong Kong and in the mainland Chinese market. But equally, I've got local regional knowledge that I could travel with and offer that expertise. Do you see that mix? And perhaps students could even start at the next steps of their career in Hong Kong, but then take everything that they've learned to then share and develop in other parts of the world?
Absolutely. And actually, one of our alum from the graduating batch, he is now in Paris. Because he actually started his career from Dubai or Middle East markets, and then he's from China himself, and he did his MBA in Hong Kong, the partnership track in London, and then he immediately after his career he moved to Paris. So I think we of course, this is a really extreme case where you check all the boxes, different continents, but we start to see people that we don't really want them to be limited to just one market. And that's why we organize, business tracks to different cities. Of course, we took them to mainland China. We do a lot of it in Hong Kong, but every year we also select one overseas destination, right? So last year we took them to Dubai. This year the same. In the past we took them to Singapore, just to explore what are the opportunities, or even just to understand what's going on in that market. We also have had alums who actually got connections or with our local alums overseas who actually now overseas and potentially get connected to opportunities. So we start to see that a lot as well. And which is why we always emphasize that when we do sharing students' stories, we also want to make sure that they know these are the options. Don't limit it to yourself. But of course, I do agree in some ways, because a school will have a certain reach that is stronger in one region than the others. So I do feel like if you are looking at different locations, then that is actually during the admissions process, you have to be very specific about it. Let's say you do want to explore international opportunities, then say that into the career team. Tell them in advance, tell them that they are open to this, and tell them how you actually can do this, and or how you can do this over this 1 year to get prepared for that. So definitely have seen that success stories, and they really definitely have a great time all around the world, and they're still connected to the school in so many ways.
Right. Well, I couldn't resist, Sarah, thinking that Emily in Paris has such a random career that she would have benefited from some of the structure. Perhaps some of the sort of key capstone projects, consulting in a company. You've got La Défense, which is the biggest business district in continental Europe. So connections with companies that can open doors. How does that work, both in Paris, on campus, and building those different bridges?
Yeah, so I was just talking with Jean-Miel this morning about the number of companies coming on campus, just to get it right. So he said there's over 2,000 companies who come on campus, and in many different, forums and from all over the world. So we have the head of global coming, we have certain regions coming, and we can foster that through like our consulting forum, our finance forum, our MBA recruitment fair, our internship fair, et cetera, digital fair, careers in Germany. So we have a lot that kind of comes to the student, but I would remind probably anyone in the audience that probably 30 to 35% of students will get their job offer through that on-campus recruitment. So yes, you also have to really think about what's going on outside, have other plans, right from the start, be doing genuine networking to explore, not just to, wait till the end and try to get a job. But as you mentioned, we have a lot of companies headquartered in France, a lot of companies with subsidiaries in France, et cetera. So I think that those networking opportunities outside of campus are great. And then with the community of alumni, which all of the top business schools will have, you have a lot of opportunities as well. Our alumni are mostly based in France and the UK, but we have them in over 130, I think it's 132 countries, so over 130 across the world. I think clubs are a great way to get to know employers as well, recruiters. So if you lead a club, you can arrange a visit to a company. I went to the head of Hermes strategy with a club to learn about, how they diversify their business, et cetera. And it doesn't always lead to a job, but it can also kind of open and broaden your mind. And what's kind of cool is that right from day one, we allow our students to have access to the alumni network, but not just like the network, actually the portal, the clubs. So last week we had the HR club did AI and HR specific event, which current students or alumni could attend. So a really nice way to mix, to learn. So things like that are happening all the time. So I think it's more about putting yourself out there, identifying the right opportunities. But I think Paris is the best place to be in terms of specifically for placement in Europe, but it can also be pretty interesting worldwide.
Yeah. You talk about clubs and the energy that students bring to feed those clubs. You're also talking earlier, Benjamin, about alumni and their generosity, how they give back. So if 35% of the places are formally through recruiters on campus, that alumni network must play a big role in sort of a shadow job market of connection and say, hey, we're hiring over here. Is that something that you see a lot of?
To certainly be yes. It will depend on the sector and how much it's driven by on-campus recruitment versus unstructured or off-campus. But the alumni network is not only just there to get you that job, it's also just for you to understand the various options available to you and for you to discover a path or a profile that is similar to your own. And I actually tell our students, don't just look at our alumni, look at anybody who's done an MBA, because you're trying to a certain degree, already walk a path that's charted ahead of you and understand that one is much easier than trying to make your own path and discover that. So always try and look for somebody who's the same background, same profile as yourself. What obstacles did they face? And the first ones to go to, I always recommend the ESE alumni, but then broaden your horizon as well. If you are somebody from LATAM who wants to go, let's say, to Finland, well, don't only look for a ESE who is a general ESE. Find somebody who's from LATAM. If it's Brazil, a Brazilian who's in Finland. How's the cultural adaptation? Do you have Brazilian? These are all small things that make your life so much better, because what I always tell students is, yes, you could get your dream job, but is it in a location you also want to live in? Because the moment you finish and you clock out, are you going home happy or are you going home sad? And for me, that's really an important part. So it's leveraging not only the ESE alumni network, it's all the alumni network, all your connections, because the more you learn, the more a better choice you make in the end. And that's crucial.
Hey, we have emotions spilling all over this webinar with happiness and sadness. With the alumni, Mercy, perhaps, as our viewers are exploring their different options, are you able to then connect, the Brazilian alum with candidates from that market or, from particular industry, so that they can, really have personal, tailored discussions with each other? And how do you recommend a viewer approaches that, respecting the time of the alum? They're busy individuals. How can they make the most of those discussions?
Sure. I think there are different approach to do that. We sometimes do realize that the students will reach out directly without going through the school or the program, which is great as well, because I think that really make it natural in some way. And it's what we trying to do is on top of the just admissions and career, but actually alumni engagement being a critical part of these two. So that by nurturing a good community with our alum, that making them feel comfortable and willing to share at any time is really important. So that is the unfacilitated way. I would say in terms of the facilitated way, we usually towards, let's say, a student's really deciding on whether or not to commit to an offer. That is where we would like to make more specific connections that really, like you said, make the best of their time and the best of the alumni's time to have very focused conversation. So we will facilitate that, making are there any specific industry you're looking at? Are there any specific, nationality you may want to connect with someone from the same hometown, right? So then we will make those kind of connections, where even we actually will connect some of the students with potentially even some of the other students if they're in the same boat too. And alumni, of course, they will also host the more formal ways as well, so that they can actually benefit from get asked questions from not just one candidate in one time. And because we really feel like sometimes just because I'm asking the alum one-on-one, it doesn't mean that some other people's question wouldn't help me. So we also organize beyond just one-on-one, like small group sessions where we have the alum comes in and the candidates potentially can also talk to them or ask questions from like webinars.
Right. Sarah, you'd mentioned a network, and HEC has an insane network. You've got the London House, as well as things in France and in other parts of the world. Maybe from the perspective of someone that's joining the September or the January cluster, what's the difference between the network, tens of thousands, and a community and kind of your tribe? Because you offer both, I guess.
And so I guess every intake coming in kind of has their own personality. They used to make an incoming video, which I hope they bring back because it really showed a little bit about their personality. They would always have music and they would be doing something to connect each other. And you have some who come in who just seem more serious, and others that come in and seem like really more happy and giving. And I think a lot of that could have to do possibly with the economic situation and many other factors. So I would say the community and the network aren't really that different. I would say we're all a community. Once you say HEC, whether you work there, have a degree, whether you visited and know we have a UK house, I hope you feel that really strong vibe, warm bond, that love for HEC. And it's often why students choose us, especially if they come on a campus visit. They say like, it's something indescribable that they just feel. So I guess if you think like your day one community, you're all living in an on-campus dorm, you're coming to school, you've come from all over the world, you come in, you're there. That just forms like a natural bond and a natural like community, and that's your first community. But then this network, I think, is your family and your community from day one as well, especially if you reach out in a genuine way. And I've seen just amazing things in terms of people helping each other. Yeah, so I don't know if I would really differentiate because it's a community, it's a family, but like maybe almost a network second, although it benefits in the way that a network does.
Yeah, and you emphasize the importance of being genuine. So perhaps my final question for you, Benjamin, and with your tech insights, being genuine in all of this process, whether you're an MBA student, graduate from IESE, from HKU, from HEC Paris, if people can use GPT for a cover letter, if they could use it for their, it was interesting, you emphasized optimizing a resume. What would your piece of advice be for anybody navigating this, the job market, to be able to share that authenticity and the real you, and not something that's generated by GPT?
I think that is the biggest problem for a lot of students right now, even for candidates. It's if you aren't a native mother tongue English speaker, you sort of feel that to bridge that gap, I need to use this tool. No, you don't. You absolutely don't. What you have to be is authentic to yourself and truly authentic to who you are. You can use this tool to generate an idea or get a brainstorming session from it. And it can kickstart that whole process. What truly, truly important is to write everything in your own language, the way you would phrase things. The number of times I come across students and I read something and I look at the student and it doesn't match. There's a complete disconnect between what's written and the way it's written as well. Is it sounds robotic still. AI is not there where it's sounding natural yet. Maybe in a year's time it's different. But try and be as authentic to yourself. That for me is the most important. And these tools will only get stronger, and get comfortable with them, but show yourself. It's sometimes difficult to do so because you're always competing in your mind against others. But at the end of the day, if you have the right skill sets, you have the right experience, you'll get to where you ultimately want to get to. That's really big.
Being true to yourself, getting to where you want to get to. Final question for you, Mercy. A candidate says, well, I've been thinking about business school for a couple of years, but it's never been the right time. Is there a right time to go to business school, and why might that be now?
Our answer is actually no. There is no standard right time. Of course, I think every school we will put an average of working experience on the website. I think it's simply a lot of reasons was because people ask. They just want to have a benchmark in their mind. But having said that, we don't encourage them to look at that because otherwise you end up being the average. And what's the fun in that, right? So we really encourage people to really think about why you want to do this, what you think is missing that at this stage of your professional life that potentially an MBA would help. Then it comes to really, okay, then that is, am I feeling stuck? Or do I really want to make it leap? So it's really come down to the fundamental questions instead of the timing questions. Of course, there will be considerations where, like, the more senior you get, the opportunity costs become higher. So I think that would be something that, to be very honest, you do need to think about, especially moving to a very different market and kind of starting over in that market. And that really focusing on what are the resources available at the school. Really go out and talk to the people, the career team, the admissions team, to understand how they can help you. I think that matters more compared to looking at just timing alone. And for like the younger professionals, right, maybe 2-3 years of experience, they'll be like, no, am I too young for MBAs? Not really, because I think nowadays you can do so much more even during college. And sometimes I really am this jealous of them, because I feel, wow, you've done so much in those 4 years. Actually, and now after 2 years, you have a sense of a gap that you want to fill in earlier than later. So it really become a very personal thing. So just make sure, as Benjamin said, you really know why you want to do an MBA, what this matters to you, and what this can help you.
Right. Well, our sincere hope with my co-host John Byrne is to help our viewers, think about why business school. What's the right fit? And I think to have wonderful panelists like you really helps them to think through this in that very authentic way. There are marketing brochures over here, but the way that each of you have presented your schools and the bigger themes that we've addressed, that's wonderful, I think, for all of our viewers to have that opportunity. So Benjamin, Sarah, Mercy, thank you very much for joining us at Centre Court, and I'm sure lots of our candidates will be in touch. Thank you.